My name is Kim. I'm the Chief Gaming Officer at a Polish company called Kinguin. And if you're wondering what a Chief Gaming Officer does, I am too. So if you find out, drop me an email after the presentation. If you're wondering who Kinguin is the company that was started 5 years ago. It's today about 350 employees, almost $100 million in revenue last year. In American investment circles, they say that if you can hit $50 million in 6 years, you're a rocket ship, which makes Kinguin an Imperial-class Star Destroyer. It's a company that sells gaming keys, 16-digit CD keys that someone buys and then plugs into somewhere else and gets access to a game. It's not a particularly sexy product. 16 digits are just not sexy no matter how you do about it. But as I'll show you, what I think is unique about the company is that since it started, it's actually saved its customer base of 7 million, $175 million to date, compared to like normal listing prices. So with that in mind, I thought I would show you guys just a quick tour of gaming and why Kinguin is doing the things that we're doing. It's not just to make money. There's a little philosophy behind it as well. And then I'll go into our ICO, which is actually pre-ICO live right now on the internet tubes. So if someone is interested, come see me after or go to our website where you can actually participate today. The first game that ever came out was a game called Space War. It didn't look like that. It was from the 1960s, and it was only playable by probably a handful of nerds that had access to like super mainframes somewhere. The first commercial game in the universe in the history of mankind was called Pong. It was installed in Andy Capp's Tavern in Sunnyvale, California in 1972, and it was a fantastic day for gaming. One, gaming was commercially started that day. Second of all, competitive gaming was invented. There was a paddle game, two people versus each other. And we had the first taste of why microtransactions as a concept primarily have sucked up until today. The machine itself simply short-circuited because there were quarters in it. So gaming has changed a lot. The sky in games used to be blue. Everything was super positive. This is Outrun on arcade. If you crashed your car into a tree, the worst thing that would happen would be your girlfriend going like, meh, 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 meh. That was like the worst thing that could happen in a game when I was a kid. Another example of a blue sky game. Games today have changed. They have become gray and depressing. Everything is like post-apocalyptic. The universe has usually ended somehow, or mankind is being attacked by aliens. There are very few things that are positive. We used to wait forever and ever for our games. This is Half-Life 2. I waited almost 10 years, I think, for that game. It was worth it. We don't wait for games anymore. Today we pre-order them instead. So we take our money, we give them to a publisher and expect that when the game comes out, it's going to be amazing and just going to work. And then we get a shiny hat for it, so we can look cool in the game to other people. We still wait forever for games. Some games are just delayed for an eternity. The difference is that today we also give money to the people who are delaying the games forever. Star Citizen has raised more than $100 million in crowdfunding. So now we have something to bitch about as a community because they're not delivering. As I said, microtransactions used to be micro. There used to be a quarter that you would literally put into an arcade machine. Today they feel a little pony. This is an example of a horse armor. It was the first example of a microtransaction on a free-to-play game in the Western world. That horse armor cost $8.99, and the community thought that was the stupidest thing we had ever heard. That was an outrage against the publisher for introducing that to the market. An outrage against the publisher for introducing something to the market that was free to buy. The irony of that is that here we are probably 6 years later. 4 weeks ago, a rifle in Counter-Strike was sold for $61,000. That's how far we have progressed as a species in 6 years, from being pissed about that to $61,000 for a Counter-Strike rifle. We used to buy games, and then we got cool shit. This is Elite, 1984, Commodore 64. I had this, and I had that poster hanging on my wall. There was never any girls in my room for some reason, but I was super proud of having that poster on my wall. Games today are free to play. That means that we basically rent access to some kind of character that lives in cyberspace somewhere on the publisher's server. We don't get anything. Zero. We used to collect games, which was a natural extension of us buying them. You have all seen people who have a DVD collection. We used to do that with games also. We don't do that anymore. Today we get a season pass instead, where basically the publisher says, hey, we'll release 3 more things for the game. You get them for free, or you can pay us $15 each time we do something for the game that you like. We also get shiny hats for that. Gameplay used to be super, super simple. Go to the blue door, unlock it so you can find the red key so you can unlock the red door. Like, it was very, very uncomplicated to play games when I was a kid. Today, gameplay has become meta. That means that other people, the people you play against or with, are actually the content of the game. Game designers have changed. Game design has become something completely different. Enemies used to be dumb. This is Golden Axe on arcade. If you got hit by a hammer by one of the big guys, you were an idiot. Like, people at the arcade would laugh at you because that was so easy to sidestep. Today, enemies are smart, really fucking smart. This is Team Kinguin's Dota team. I had them living in my house for a while, just because I'm a masochist. The guy on the right, Raphael, he has put 15,000 hours into Dota 2. 15,000 hours is the amount of time from his life that he's dedicated to that game. Has any one of you in this room given 15,000 hours to anything? This is a champion that wants to be the best in the world. He will stop at nothing for it. Game designers used to look like this. Smart people, this is the inventor of Mario. They used to create worlds that was full of amazement and creativity and do everything they could to entertain us. Now they're called monetization designers. They look roughly like the Wolf of Wall Street. They have absolutely no respect for their customers. And some of the biggest gaming companies today are, in my opinion, guilty of treating their customers like absolute garbage. And they're exploiting their player base. Speaking of player exploitation, it used to look like that. That was the hardest game in the universe. Like, you would die in Dragon Slayer and you had no idea why, and for some reason it cost like 700 times more than any other game in the arcade, so you would just like put in like money, die, and then put in more money trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. Today, player exploitation looks like that. That's a loot crate from the latest Star Wars game, where they actually removed one of the core fundamentals of gameplay and game design, progression. In that game, there was no progression. The only thing it would be random loot, where you could maybe get some shit, and that would allow you to get better armor and so on, which was really the progression in the game. And some guy proved in math that, if you live roughly 40 lifetimes, you would probably get all that shit without paying money for it. They had to retract the game and had to re-ramp the entire model. That's like the player base in the community simply said, this is enough. Crowdfunding used to power esports. Every year for the last 6 years, Valve has announced a new world record every year in the amount of money that gets paid to 5 kids in Seattle that play Dota. The last guy, one of them was German, won $2.3 million in one game. Even that has now gone the way of the dodo. This is an example of how Blizzard is attacking it. They're also doing the whole thing, support esports, let's do crowdfunding and do a campaign where they raise whatever amount of money, they won't actually tell us, and then they take a fraction of that amount and put it into esports. The rest is just really paying for the operational bills. Innovation used to look like that. It was sweets. It's from a game called Portal 2 by Valve. Cake is a lie. Now innovation in gaming looks like that. That is a patent application from Activision that basically enables you as a player, like if you buy a shiny hat in the game, you will be paired with people who are not very good at the game, so you get a feeling of sense of victory. That's how disgusting these people are in their monetization efforts. The smartest people on Earth used to say stuff about being crazy and believing that you could impact things around you. Now the smartest people on Earth, this is the COO of a Dota team called OG. He won probably $6 million over the last 18 months, say shit about going completely retard, because that is the technical right description for you having an online gaming experience with 10 other players or 9 other players that absolutely don't want the same thing as you do. It's full retard. That brings us to why we're here. Kinguin, as I said, was a company that was started 5 years ago, 350 employees, around $92 million in annual revenue last year. 350 employees, 60 developers, 99 supporters, because we actually handle all support on our platform ourselves. 15,000 transactions a day, 7 million gamers. Our mission is to make great gaming experiences available to everyone. That sounds weird. Why would someone care about that to begin with? When we started, one of the biggest problems that we actually helped solve was accessibility. It was that people who live in Australia or New Zealand, where a game can cost up to $110 when the system is done, like adding taxes and so on a digital product, the game can cost 2 times more than it does in the US. by us approaching the market as a free economy and as a global economy, we were able to sort of like cut that away, and we've saved, as I said, our community $175 million up until today. We've done that not by going after billions and billions of customers, but just by serving them one at a time as best as we can. The beautiful thing about working in the gaming community, where I've been lucky enough to work most of my career, is that it's really like a water cooler. Like if you do something right for someone, they will tell other people, and if you do something wrong, they will shout it to everyone who will listen and people who don't want to listen. It's a very honest and true experience. Set the revenue. So that brings me to why we're here. We believe that today, as gaming has changed, has turned from something that was designed like a Disneyland ride into a community experience like a basketball court, that the people who are really doing the content, who are creating all the value, are actually not getting a fair share of the value creation. The gaming industry is today a bigger entertainment industry than the movie industry and the music industry. Like, think about that for a second. Worldwide today, there are less than 4,000 gamers who can make a living playing games. There are a lot more than 4,000 actors, and there are a lot more than 4,000 musicians. Sorry. Awkward break. Okay, so the solution to that, we believe, is a global platform like we already have, but now situated on the blockchain. Trusted system, peer-to-peer trade on a global scale, and a cryptocurrency that we call crowns, specifically designed for the gaming community as a utility to create value. On the platform, you will be able to buy and sell assets just like you can today. Roughly 23% of our revenue on Kinguin today is not from games, it's actually from virtual items, in-game items that are being traded. What is unique about how we're approaching this on the new platform is that we took decentralization to heart. So one of the things that we've been spending the last year and a half developing is chatbot technology. 96% of our customers on Kinguin who enter support, and when you enter support, you mostly enter it because you've had a bad experience. Otherwise, you really wouldn't go to support. Leave the interaction that they have with us satisfied after dealing with a chatbot. 96% is our achievement rate so far. You'll be able to buy and sell services, which is a new thing in gaming. Once every 2 years, I look at myself in the mirror and I regret everything that I've done to myself, and I go to the gym and hire a personal trainer. It's like a panic thing. And I do my best to look good in front of this trainer. I don't know if I necessarily get more out of the workout session than I would alone. I show up, so that's the start. We think the same concept can apply to gaming very, very well. We have been working on technology that allow us to pair people together on different skill levels. As an example, I play Dota. I can, by definition of the rules in the game, only play with a guy who's 2K MMR points higher than me. Otherwise, we simply won't be able to join a server together. But I would love to hire a guy who's exactly 2K higher than me. That can help me join a server, help me in actual live combat, win games. We can call it a power level, or we can call it a personal trainer. I believe it's the exact same concept. Another example of this would be, I have nerd friends who have spent 10 years perfecting how to tweak the most frames out of a computer. They're amazingly good at it. I have no idea what it is they do. Them selling their services and making that available to the rest of the community on the platform, I think will be a great thing. We're introducing a concept called smart publishing. As I started working on the concepts for what it is that we could do on the blockchain and figuring out what would be possible and not possible, one of the first things that actually came to mind was there's not a single games publisher today who are actually in compliance with EU regulations for digital contracts, which is ironic. One of the things that the EU Commission stipulates is that a gamer or a consumer in general should be able to enjoy a digital product and then resell it once he's done with that. That's not a thing that is technically possible on the gaming platforms today. We are introducing that roughly around September next year as the roadmap looks right now. The business financials. We're doing, as I said, our ICO, pre-ICO that's live now. Our ICO starts soon. We are selling 30% of our tokens as the initial run to the market. We are doing that to make sure that we stabilize prices. We're doing that to make sure that we can sort of act as a gold reserve. We have more than 4,000 active merchants on the platform who, as I said, transact up to $92 million a year. We want to make sure that as they invest fiat into the platform, that we have some price stability in the market. From advisors, there's a couple of German people here. If any of you are familiar with esports, Jens Hilgers is basically considered the godfather of esports. Started Turtle Entertainment in Cologne that was sold for $135 million a couple of years ago. Anna Straczynski is an interesting character. She is the former minister of digital affairs in Poland. That's interesting. What's really interesting was that she's a politician, had an approval rate of 80%. I've never seen it before. She built an entire team around her after a sort of lifetime spent fighting telecompanies and so on to break up Polish monopolies, and has just started a blockchain development company that has some serious international talent, unlike anything I've ever seen in Warsaw. That is actually our blockchain developer. That is the development house that's doing most of the code base that I'm out peddling. Alexander Shulgin is also a very, very interesting character. He's had more than 50 #1 music hits in Russia. He is one of the judges. He's like the evil Simon Cowell character in the Russian version of Idols. He also, I believe, roughly 10 years ago, took all his money and sold it and bought Bitcoin for it. So as you can imagine, he's very, very happy today. He's advising several companies and has done a number of fantastic exits. I think I will also mention here June, who I had the pleasure of meeting last week, who lives in Singapore and is sort of considered one of the cryptocurrency experts in that region. We've put together a serious team of advisors that have so far really helped us get through this process to where we are today. And why am I excited as a gamer? As you probably figured that out. So as a gaming nerd, why am I excited about this stuff that we're doing here? I'm excited about it because I feel like this is one of those areas where gaming is again pushing the boundaries, specifically esports, is pushing the boundaries of where technology shapes and goes in the world. Esports as a thing, as a concept, has risen in conjunction with broadband being distributed all over the world and becoming steady in price. When I was a kid, I grew up in television. Someone used to tell me that porn was the single biggest contributing factor to all technological development for mankind. I think we're about to enter an era where it's gaming. Look at Twitch, that now has higher viewership than CNN. That is a technological streaming platform that was developed specifically to accommodate a gaming audience. I took a look at the black line is the total number of cryptocurrency wallets worldwide as of last year. I could count it to 20 million. Every one of you, all of us, are in this room right now because there's around 20 million people worldwide that can see some of the same potential that we can. 20 million, that's nothing. We're in very, very early days of crypto. At the same time as Bitcoin became a reality thing, League of Legends, a MOBA by Riot Games in California, was released. I've tracked the active monthly users compared to the total amount of users on this graph. As you can see, it's staggering. There is no audience that will do better on the blockchain than a gaming audience. It's people who log online to servers. They deal in virtual currencies, most likely called gold. They have items that they only exist in cyberspace that they monetize for up to $61,000 per piece. This is everything that crypto is. We just did it and called it gold. And that is my presentation for today. The last thing I want to highlight, I still have 1 more minute, is the marketing for everything I just told you. We have roughly 15,000 transactions today, where we will be displaying crowns as an alternative currency as that transaction happens. So roughly 30,000 individuals today, every day, will be exposed to our utility token. We're taking it one step further. We're taking a portion of our revenue that we're actually donating back into the community. We're calling it gold crowns. Crowns, gold crowns. In our universe, in the Kinguin universe, gold comes from the heart. It can only be gifted. So what will happen is that effectively, this is a state of our currency, that our customers will get deployed on their wallets. We anticipate between $5 to $10 million over the next 12 months will be distributed to our audience as gold crowns. As I said, gold crowns can only be gifted, and they can only be gifted to accredited influencers, streamers, and content creators in gaming. That means that probably 70 to 80% of the most notorious and famous, highest profile streamers in the world will next year have access to free money that will support their lifestyle and the discovery problem that they solve for the community. There's no one better at telling the gaming community, who's now numbering in 1.2 billion gamers worldwide, what the best content is than people who actually like to watch that content. And we believe that this is a game changer for us, but it's also a game changer for influencer marketing in general. I think something at this scale has never been done before. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Kinguin.io is open today, and if not, I'll be out there hiding, and you can come find me if you have questions. Thank you.